Hey, welcome back to my studio. I'm sitting here working on multiple projects today. Behind me, you see I'm still working on this tree, this ash tree. I've really been drawn to the theme lately of fragments, broken pieces that are being gathered back to make something new out of something old and discarded. It feels like a really big theme. We're in the middle of Lent. This is the first week of Lent, and I have decided that I have given up fried foods, and I've stopped drinking alcohol for the duration of Lent, and not so that I can find favor with God, but so that I can remove some things from my life that feel like I could create more space for something good to come in, something good for me, good for my relationships. So I find that sometimes I'll have a glass of wine when I'm in the studio, and then it makes me kind of sleepy, and I get sluggish, and I slack off, and I'm really not very productive. So I'm finding that it's really good for me not to have that glass of wine while I'm in the studio. So it's been a good thing to remove, to subtract, so that I can create more space for other really great things. And I'm finding that I've been more productive than I have in a while. And so it's been really good. And I am in a season of, God puts us in different seasons, places, and I think it's so interesting that this season of Lent, I'm finding myself being so drawn to, like I'm holding this wire. Okay, so I'm going through my studio looking for these old fragments of long lost, long ago projects. This is bonsai wire that I used for something years ago, and I still have it sitting around, and I'm looking around and finding, I have this, you probably can't see this, but see this pile right here? It's a beautiful pile of rubbish, but not really. It's, I've got some old rebar wire from an old project, some old sandpaper, some old papers like these. These are just, look at these. They're so beautiful. They're just torn papers. So when I do copper trees, I find papers and collage elements that are significant to me, that speak to me in some way, and I start out with the collage on the first layer of the canvas. And some of these papers came from this beautiful book. It's called Conversations at Midnight, written by, what's her name? Hold on, I'm going to cheat and look. Edna St. Vincent Millay. And this copy was published in, I don't know, maybe I tore out that page. Anyway, it's a pretty old book, I would say like 1930s, 40s. And so those papers kind of are part of this bottom layer, because I feel like God works that way a lot. He'll tear something down and leave ruins and then build something beautiful on top of it. But those ruins never go away. Our stories never go away. We're telling stories. We're telling a new part of the story. But we never really start over. We always have our narrative from years ago that it comes with us, becomes part of us, part of who we are. But in that, we lose parts of ourselves. We lose fragments and pieces that feel like they've been discarded. And I've been here with Lent, spending time in solitude and having a desire to find some pieces of me that I need, that are good, that are right, and that I've lost. And so I'm kind of working with Jesus on that. And so I have this that I'm going through, Sacred Space, for Lent, put out by the Irish Jesuits. And they have little readings every day. And there's this one portion that I just keep going back to, and it's just a simple sentence. It says, It is in the desert time, our time of prayer, solitude, and aloneness with God, that God readies us for our next steps. Have you ever kind of looked back in your life and noticed so Ignatius of Loyola, a Spanish monk, lived in the 1600s, I think. He talks about the ideas of consolation and desolation. That's his language for what I'm talking about. But when we're in the desert and we're in a season of wilderness and waiting, it can often appear to us like we're not moving, we're not doing anything. It's like this inactive period, and how long do we have to sit here and wait for our lives or for our next movement? And so waiting is it's a spiritual discipline. And but what I've noticed in past times in my life where I've waited for a long time and it felt like nothing was happening, I can look back and see all of the fruit that came after that season of waiting. The last time I was in a really long period of waiting and living in the desert, in solitude, aloneness with God. After that came a book, came a return to school, getting my art degree, making all these things. So much came out of me creatively. I was making a lot after that season. So Ignatius would encourage us to go back when we're in a place of desolation, to go back and remember that we're not always asked to stay in desolation, that consolation will come and it will emerge beautifully, and there will be beautiful things as we emerge out of that. So instead of longing for somewhere I'm not, I'm really asking for the grace to look for the gifts where I am, and then trust that that fruit will come later on. So that's kind of where I am, and this process is really helping me stay focused on my work in the studio and healing, and looking at these pieces that are broken fragments and asking for the gifts of parts of me to return to myself. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now, and Lent has just been such a great way to do that. And so I don't know if you can see this. There's this is that bonsai wire I was telling you about. So I'm getting ready to sew these on, and I'm just looking at this. An ash tree is symbolic for newness, wholeness, and emergence, so it's kind of like I'm taking all these pieces, these fragmented copper pieces, this old bits of wires. This wire is probably 10 or 15 years old, and just applying it and making something new, and trusting that, wow, well, maybe that's true for me too. And so I'm having tons of fun working on these, and I'll keep you up to date as we go. All right, have a good day.